Our days are formed by a chain of small habits that at the same time give shape to our lives. In fact, you already have habits of your own, but some of them are not helping you achieve your dreams. Look, it's not enough to know how habits work, as we saw in the previous video of this category. Even though it's the first step, you also need to know how to create new habits. This way you can change the habits that do not put you closer to your goals. Let's see how we can create some great new habits. On today's video, we're going to talk about things like how to create new habits the easy way, cravings, or why habits are so powerful. Of course, we're going to talk about more things. Without any delay, let's get started, shall we? What is a craving? Before we can even start creating new habits, there is one new concept that we must be aware of. Let's introduce cravings. Cravings are an intense, urgent, and abnormal desire for something. Cravings are what makes cues and rewards work, is what powers the habit loop. Since cravings are what drive habits, figuring out how to spark a craving makes creating a new habit way easier. How to create new habits the easy way? Look, the easiest way to create a new habit and stick to it is to learn the right human psychology. That psychology is grounded in two basic rules. First, find a simple and obvious cue. And second, clearly define the reward. This is how habits are created, by putting together a cue, a routine, and a reward, and then cultivating a craving that drives the habit loop. Take for instance a smoker. When a smoker sees a cue, let's say a pack of cigarettes, their brains start anticipating a hit of nicotine. Just the sight of cigarettes is enough for the brain to crave a rush of nicotine. Particularly strong habits produce addiction-like reaction, so that wanting evolve into obsessive craving that can force our brain to go into autopilot. Even if we face strong disincentives as losing a job, losing family, losing respect, or losing our house. However, these cravings don't have full control over us. But in order to overpower the habit, we must recognize which craving is driving the behavior. How do you increase the success rate of new habits? A cue and a reward on their own aren't enough for a new habit to last. Only when your brain starts expecting the reward, craving the endorphins or sense of accomplishment, will it become automatic. The cue, in addition to triggering a routine, must also trigger a craving for the reward to come. For example, if you want to get in shape, it is essential that you choose a simple cue, such as going to the gym as soon as you wake up, and a clear reward, such as a delicious blackberry and banana smoothie after every workout. Then think about that blackberry and banana smoothie, or about the endorphin rush that you will feel. Allow yourself to anticipate the reward. Eventually, that craving will make it easier for you to push through the gym doors every morning. Anyone can use this formula to create habits of his or her own. A craving is an essential part of the formula for creating new habits. What happens after a while of practicing a habit? As we become more and more practice at a habit, aka as the habit becomes stronger and stronger, our brains start anticipating the reward. Basically, before we had a cue, routine, and a reward. And when we receive that reward is when we got that rush that powers the habit loop. But as time passes, instead of getting the rush from the actual reward, we get it from the cue itself. The cue becomes enough to produce a spike or rush in our brains as if we have already received the reward. Even if we haven't received it yet, we start expecting the reward as soon as we see the cue. As soon as we see the cue, we start anticipating the joy that comes with that reward. Nevertheless, if we don't receive it, that joy will become a craving, a neurological pattern associated with desire and frustration appears that, if unsatisfied, can make us angry or depressed. Once we have created a habit, our brains start to anticipate the reward. Then distraction help no allure. The anticipation and sense of craving is so overwhelming that we stick to our habits. The same way a gambler will play slots way after he has lost his winnings. Why habits are so powerful? This explains why habits are so powerful. They create neurological cravings. In fact, most of the time these cravings emerge so gradually that we are not really aware they exist. So we are often blind to their influence. But as we start associating cues with certain rewards, a subconscious craving emerges in our brains that starts the habit loop. Let's put an example that is really common and happens to a lot of people. Let's see the habit of when you receive your salary on your bank account and you spend all of it immediately. First, you receive your salary in your bank account. Now you have money to spend. This is your cue. Second, over time we learn that the appearance of money in our bank account means that it's time to execute a routine. In this case, to spend all your money in new things, let's say clothes, for example. And third, as a result, you get a rush of dopamine that comes from buying new things, clothes, for example. This will be our reward. This is basic learning, okay? And the habit only emerges when we start craving that new stuff. That in reality, what we crave is that sensation, that rush that gives us the action of buying new things. When we see the cue, in this case the end of the month or whenever you get paid, we know that it is time to execute a routine. Once that craving exists, we will act automatically, without thinking. We will follow a habit. How to use cravings to your advantage. Cravings are really powerful, and they can help us build habits that elevate us to our full potential, or they can drag us into utter misery. For this simple reason, it's really important that we learn how to use them to help us stick with good habits and ignore temptation that will do us harm. First of all, choose something really carefully that you truly want. Then create a habit around that thing with a really specific and meaningful reward. Now, when the temptation arises, and it will happen, focus on the craving for that reward. When you have cultivated the craving into a mid-obsession, the craving for that reward will crowd out the temptation, because the craving drives the habit loop. Conclusion. Now, in order to finish this, and with the intention of making this crystal clear, let's see a summary, a blueprint if you must, so you can internalize the process of how to create new habits. First, find a simple and obvious cue. Second, clearly define the reward. And third, create a strong craving. Remember one more time, when choosing a cue, you have to choose a cue that not only triggers the routine, but also that triggers the craving for the reward to come. Okay? Now you know how to create new habits that are aligned with your dreams. Nonetheless, there is still one step that you can take to boost the efficiency of all of this. That step is to have a deeper knowledge on how habits work, so you understand them perfectly. And there is no better way to do that than reading this book, The Power of Habit. Enjoy the reading and use what you learn in your day-to-day life. Carefully design your habits and let them work for you. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon in the next video. Peace and bye.